take to win the Olympia 4 times. A lot of perseverance, a lot of consistency. I believe some luck, believe it or not. I mean, I think that, you know, you kind of go into every preparation thinking you're going to be better than the last. And like I mentioned, I had a lot of different looks. I had a lot of competition. And like I said, mentally, I feel I was stronger than a lot of the guys. So I didn't get psyched out. I didn't have as much challenge on some competitions. Obviously, I was being second 6 times. I mean, I held the record for second place runner-ups. I was consistent with that, but day in, day out, motivated, like I said, consistent, definitely, you know, had a vision. And like I said, it was a dream since I was a child to be the best at what I did, you know, and I had motivation from all different areas. But I think a lot of it was self-motivation, belief in myself, but going to the gym every day, day in, day out, you know, staying with the nutrition and having great genetics. You know, genetics still has that part, you know, the shoulder width, the ability to put on that much mass, the ability to get in great condition without some harder effort than some of the other people. But, you know, I also had a lot of great motivation from the competitors I was up against. If it wasn't for some of the great Chris Cormier's and Dexter Jackson's, Ronnie Coleman's, Phil Heath's, Gustavo Bedel's, Gunter Schlierkamp, all those guys, I wouldn't have been as great as I became. My favorite win obviously was the first, you know, beating Ronnie Coleman was great. But being the first one to lose and come back to win it, 2009 against Dexter Jackson, he beat me in 08. It's never been done, right? So 2 things in my career, you know, I beat Mr. Olympia on stage, never had been done before. And then to come back and win it just after losing it, no one's ever done that, and still to this day has never done that. So for me, you know, I set place in history, and both those were great achievements for me and exciting. But at the same time, nothing beats kind of the first. It's kind of surreal when you say I'm the best bodybuilder on the planet, and it's a lifelong dream. Toughest competition, Ronnie Coleman for sure. I mean, I was second to him 4 times. Dexter Jackson was always knocking at the door. Chris Cormier was second to me at 3 Arnold Classics. I mean, all these guys were motivation to me and tough. Not to say that the guy that out of the top 10 wasn't tough, because I looked at everyone. I never overshot anyone as far as the ability, because look at, I came up from last to win. So you have to look at the 20, 25, 30 guys, just going for Olympia sakes. You know, anyone can become a Mr. Olympia. I think Brandon Curry, who became Mr. Olympia, he was at the back of the pack also. Sean Roden was at the back of the pack. He became Mr. Olympia. You know, it's a little more apparent these days. You know, it's not the Phil Heath story where he came in and got third his first one. You know, he was destined for greatness for sure, but he doesn't know what it's like to be at the end and then forward. That's the one thing is, when I walked backstage and I tried to accept the newer challengers, meaning there was the rookies that were coming in each year, I used to spend time with each one and say, I been you, and I don't know what to expect. And when we walk away from the show, and there has to be a first place guy and a last place guy. And I always tried to comfort those people because I was there. And I was in the middle. I was 8th out of 16 one year. So for me, like, I know every position there is. And that's what's the coolest thing about my career is I can speak from all sides. High volume training is my philosophy on how to train. So I was one to do 20 sets per body part at least. I mean, I would do 30 to 40 sometimes for back or legs. I never believed on going to failure. So everything's done in 12 repetitions, but I always pyramid the weights up, but allow enough for 2 or 3 more repetitions before I stop. And the reason I do that is I just felt that it's better for your joints. I train at a faster pace, 45 to 60 seconds rest between each set. I think you stay in better shape that way. I don't think the muscle actually knows how much weight it's bearing. So, you know, you may look at it like someone bench pressing and say, well, I have to bench press 400 pounds. You know, you can make 200 feel like 400. It's all time under tension, muscle contraction. Even someone trying to put on a lot of size, they say, you have to train heavy. But I still kept the repetitions at 12 repetitions. Everything was done at 12 reps. And I've never experienced any type of training. I mean, from the time I started 18 to today, I've done the same exact training. I don't do strip sets or drop sets, or have I tried it? Absolutely. But what works best for me is the high volume, short rest periods, focusing on 12 repetitions. Recovery is important. So I think, you know, doing tissue work, stretching, keeping your body pliable. Remember, a muscle that's more pliable is going to get more nutrients and blood flow than, you know, muscle that stays tight. So that means the stretching and the tissue work outside the gym is very, very important. And also the recovery, you know, with the fluids and, you know, the nutrition that you put in your body. So in my peak, I was training on a 2-on, 1-off schedule. So ideally I trained twice a day. So I would do 2 weight sessions a day, each session lasting maybe 45 minutes. I would usually train a larger and a larger body part and a smaller body part. So for example, I would do chest and triceps on a day, and I would do chest in the morning, triceps in the afternoon. Now, Joe Weider taught me one thing, and he was kind of the father of bodybuilding, is, you know, he had his principles, and I spent a lot of time in the gym, as Arnold and some of the greats before me. But he always suggested to me, like, have 5 hours in between working a body part if you're going to train twice a day. And I can honestly say, like, today, it's definitely changed a lot. I don't see a lot of the guys training twice a day. And it allowed me to stay in great shape. I think muscle training is still more reactive than doing cardiovascular. You know, when you work towards a pump, you're gonna burn a lot more calories than standing on a treadmill or step mill or whatever else. And people don't realize that even the women, to have muscle tone, you still want to have some muscle tone in there, and because muscle is obviously going to burn more calories, right? So twice a day training, a larger and a smaller muscle group. I would train 2 days, so that's 4 workouts over 2 days, take a day off, and those days off would be resting, meaning, you know, whether it's tissue work, definitely, you know, making sure I get my meals in, sleeping proper. And listen, you have to sleep at least, you know, 6 to 8 hours a night. You know, you need your deep REM sleep, and for me, I was taking naps sometimes during the day between those workouts. But ideally, I was paid to be a professional bodybuilder. I was contracted to do so. So for me, it was very easy for me to put in 2 workouts a day. And then I was up at 6 in the morning and I was in bed by 9. That was my schedule, even on contract. Even though I didn't have a real job where I punched a clock, I treated it like a job. It's been a little different adjusting. I mean, I retired at 40 years old, and sometimes I find myself with social media, like, you know, I'm showing cooking my food or still working out, and it's hard for me to imagine that, you know, I still have that influence. It's especially for the younger generation that follow me on all platforms. It's not just Instagram or Facebook. It's, you know, Snapchat and TikTok, and, you know, especially the YouTube channels now. So I consider myself somewhat of a content creator, even at being at my age, because I still have a voice. I still have a reason on why I do things. And I guess I have the accolades, so people look at the experience as kind of the plus, where sometimes you can question someone's ability to reach an audience based on what have they actually achieved, right? It's a little easier, I think, for someone with the platforms that I have, especially with the social following. But education is my number one priority these days. And education, that means nutrition, training, sleep patterns, taking care of the body. I mean, I ideally, at my age, want to be someone that can really say, hey, bodybuilding can be healthy, because we have so much negativity towards bodybuilding these days. And there is another side, and it becomes another life. And I never imagined that being a 25-year-old bodybuilder in Olympia stage. I never thought, you never imagine you're going to be closer to 50 years old and still relevant or still living the lifestyle. If you asked me how much I train now comparable to 20 years ago, I probably train more now, because I actually introduce cardio, I do more stretching. I honestly train 7 days a week, which is not always suggestive for someone that's bodybuilding, because you need recovery days, but I just love to exercise. And like I said, I do a lot for my mental ability now to be able to focus, and you know, that's kind of what I preach, and that's been my transition. Biggest challenge is the brain never shuts off. That's the hardest part, is that, you know, you're always trying to get ahead. And that's, like I said, the curse of being competitive too is, you know, always trying to be better than the next. And I think sometimes the expectations are always self-improvement, but at the same time, you know, it's strategic planning. Everything has timing, and you know, everything has its place, right? So for me, I've kind of been more comfortable in my life at this point, but early on, I just was very, very hard on myself. Where today, you know, the gym is still my outlet. I still sleep extremely well, but from the time I get up to the time I go to bed, I'm just nonstop. The mental drive is still there. I listen to people around me. I surround myself with great people. So I do have some assistance in that sense. I'm not going to take all the credit, because I think a team building is great. You know, we had a conversation earlier about social media and knowledge of how to go after different marketing strategies, and I'm not the best at that, I'll be honest. So I try to take advice from people that may have a little more knowledge, a little more thought process, or maybe just better ideas. And I think that's, you know, what you got to take into account. As far as meal prep now, unfortunately, I'm part of the trifecta family. So for me, I get food a lot a la carte. So what I get is my shipment of chicken breast or bison or fish. I cook the rice on the side, even though rice is available, or meals are available. Sometimes I'll order the made meals. But for me, I still like to cook my food. Maybe it's just my past of doing what I do and weighing everything perfect and it being hands-on. But I even re-cook the food that I get, because it is all prepared. I kind of put everything in a skillet, add some onions and some seasoning or whatever else, some tomatoes sometimes, and I add a little spice to my meals. Because listen, I always said I eat for function, not for taste, but I still would rather have better tasting food. And that allows me to kind of add a couple things in, but I am still rather strict. I don't have to do necessarily grocery store runs and meal prep at this time, but I still every day have my rice cooker running. I weigh everything, portion. I still have a scale that I use, and I, you know, try to keep everything in reason. But I still enjoy my eating out too. Like, I'll still go to a restaurant, but you laugh. I go to Cheesecake Factory and I order chicken and rice. It's crazy. Everyone always makes this joke, but it's consistency what makes you great. And I don't deviate much, and I don't have that kind of a craving for the food. And that's one of the downsides of being who I was and eating as much food as I had to eat. There's nothing I can look forward to that say, I want to go out and have this special meal, because I order so plain anyway. You know, whether it's a plain steak, potato. I'm not a huge Italian food fan, as my fiance is, but there's just not a lot of things I crave, and I guess it's kind of a blessing, but a kind of a curse at the same time. But I still keep it clean with the meal prep. Listen, I worked on the CEO Muscle book, and I'm actually working on a whole autobiography now with what I'm doing. And I worked with Chris Aceto from early on, who's been a nutritionist, and anyone that knows fitness knows that name. So he lived about 2 hours from me in Massachusetts. He lived in Maine. And I used to drive up and see him, and we started working. I worked with him probably about 6 months into my training. We became somehow connected through Lou Zwick, actually. He connected us, and you know, Chris worked alongside of me, taught me a lot about nutrition and a lot about training. And eventually, he was an author of a few books. He put out cookbooks and, you know, understanding bodybuilding, like Q&A type books, long before social media or YouTube or anything. So basically he said, hey, I think, you know, it would be great if you would give your people something to kind of like a little background in you, but also kind of instructional how you go about your nutrition, about your training. And we came up with a book called CEO Muscle. And that was my release in 2004. And that was kind of more based off the Bob Harris book, Beyond Built. I kind of mimicked what he did, to be honest, because I got so much from that at 16. And I said, I want to make it simple, understanding, and just spell it out for people. Like, it's not a complicated process to eat proper, train, and make progress, no matter what your body type is. So I kind of, you know, had some instructional pictures in there. I talked about my story a little bit. Obviously it was early on in my career, so I figured now I need to come up with something a little more in-depth and a little more lengthy of a career that I never expected to have. So it's not the only book that I'll do, but it's still, I just got a message this morning actually from someone said, I just found CEO Muscle on eBay, you know, and they picked it up, and I can't believe the numbers it's selling for now, but it's a limited piece. Kind of funny, when I was training at full capacity, phones weren't allowed in the gym. Anyone showed up to train with me, I said, you can't bring your phone in. I remember sitting in the car and walking to the gym and saying, I'll call you in an hour and a half when I'd be done at the gym, and I wouldn't even bring the phone in the gym. So I didn't have the distraction of the phone ringing, even though, hey, you can, I mean, cell phones are advanced now. We didn't have video on phones back then. Today, it's almost impossible to be successful because every person needs to be somewhat involved in their social media, unless they can just afford to bring someone there to shoot the content and not be bothered. In fact, a lot of my DVDs that I put out, which was my early social media, which was the only outlet people recognized what I did, besides a magazine, I remember telling the videographer, Mitsuru Okabe, like, don't ask me any questions, just stay out of my way. And I remember not speaking one time being on video because I was just very robotic in what I did. I already went through the workouts. Like, it's kind of crazy. My mindset was, I was so mentally prepared for each workout where I would finish the day prior, or if I had a day off, I would roll through my whole workout over and over in my head. So I knew exactly when I walked in the gym, exact order I was going to do or what worked, and I had a journal. I would write everything down, every movement I made, every calorie I ate and everything else, whether I slept 2 hours or whatever else. And I just was very methodical about how I did it. And now it's almost impossible to do that. I think, you know, I choose to go to a gym where there's not a lot of cell phones and a lot of activity as such, but hey, I'm guilty of, you know, I do a lot of filming to create social media content. It's hard at my age for sure. And I applaud the younger generation that's doing it because they're trying to build a name for themselves. And like, you don't need accolades to be super popular anymore. You just need a voice and you need reason on what you're set out to do. And I think a lot of people are trying to do it. There's only going to be so many that are successful at it. But if you have the discipline and you stay consistent, if you ask me how to be great on social media, it's all consistency. You got to wake up every day. It's got to be a full-time thing. But the problem is it's very hard to separate your personal life from your social media. Like, you need to get off your phones once in a while and not be flipping through and seeing what real life is, because real life that people put on social media is not always what it is. And that's one thing I can tell people is, you know, everyone wants to experience what everyone else is doing on social media, and we all become a little trapped up in it sometimes. But you know, obviously being a content creator, you got to come up with new things. But what I try to do is show my life as much as possible, but still kind of limited in a sense. But I am definitely applauding some of the content creators out there. And I do choose to train at a gym where there's not a lot of cell phones being active in the gym. Definitely lose focus. Yeah, so I started Cutler Nutrition in 2013. And anyone that's followed my career knew that I endorsed a couple brands along the way. Started with Joe Weider, went with ISS Research, which became Oh Yeah, and then ended up with Muscle Tech, okay? And then I really wanted to do something to kind of give back to the fitness community, obviously my following, and I started Cutler Nutrition in 2013. Now, it was a little different back then because we had a big distribution channel, so I was worldwide. So I was traveling internationally, had a lot of international customers, and that has now shifted until I relaunched the brand. I started in 2013. I had a partner, bought out the partners in 2017, and I relaunched it in 2019. Same brand, Cutler Nutrition, but just different branding, different type of products. But the way I have done it now is more direct to consumer and Amazon based. So it's more through marketing, email campaigns. We don't have the exposure in the books anymore, social media. And like I said, my consumer now is buying directly from my shipping warehouse. and also through Amazon, which I'm not doing as much distribution these days. I'm not working with third-party people overseas. I pretty much handle all direct business, and it's been extremely successful. I think supplements have changed dramatically. I mean, I think the taste has improved a lot. I remember taking products that you almost had to hold your nose to take, and obviously advanced ingredients. So I'm always researching and doing more. I mean, I'm the CEO, I'm the founder. I'm still in the testing process. Every single day I'm testing products that are coming, listening to my community with what they want, even moving in towards doing greens and, you know, powdered fat burners, stem-free fat burners, which I never would have imagined would have been something in my wheelhouse early on, where I was, you know, I remember taking nothing for pre-workout. I would drink a coffee for a pre-workout, and, you know, to learn, you know, you really don't want a lot of caffeine, but I think a lot of society is undereducated over products, and they don't really read. They just kind of go by, oh, I heard this is good or that. I think you just have to kind of do your research, but more importantly, I'm just trying to educate through the social media channels and through my Gmail and all the other things that I do.